So for your module 1, let us have a brief discussion of this one. Introduction to dynamics. So engineering mechanics is basically composed of two parts, that is statics and dynamics. Statics is part of your Mech 1 and dynamics is your Mech 2. In statics, we deal with what we call our force systems and their applications. So basically, force systems are concurrent forces, parallel forces, non-concurrent, and other types of force systems. These were also discussed on your module 2 in the recall of your forces. And its application would be in trusses, centroids, and friction. For dynamics, on the other hand, we have your kinematics and kinetics. Your kinematics is concerned about translation, rotation, and plane motion. Kinetics is now concerned on pressure work and force. So basically, your kinematics is defined as what? The geometry of motion. So that is your kinematics. We are concerned with how an object behaves under motion, or when it is acted upon by an external force that will cause the motion. But we are taking the force explicitly into account, meaning we are not concerned that much in the force that caused the motion. While kinetics, on the other hand, is the opposite. We are now concerned with the forces or pressures that cause the motion of an object. So that is the two parts of dynamics, and dynamics is a part of your engineering mechanics. So we have here kinematics and kinetics. Kinematics is the geometry of motion. Let me use a laser pointer. So here, that is your kinematics, the geometry of motion. It describes the motion of the bodies without considering the forces causing the motion. On the other hand, your kinetics is concerned with the forces or torque applied on a body that causes or is resulting from motion. Those are the two parts of your dynamics. You have here an extended comparison between the two branches of your dynamics, and that would be kinetics and kinematics. So for kinetics, it deals with the causes of motions, while kinematics deals with the position, acceleration, speed of an object. Takes the mass into consideration for the kinetics, and it does not take into consideration the mass of the object for kinematics. Whenever we talk about kinematics and whenever we study about a moving object, and we are concerned with its position, acceleration, and speed, we do not consider or take into account the mass of the object. Well, for kinetics, because we are talking about the force, will that force be able to move an object? Of course, we have to consider your mass. Later on, we will study about this on your inertia. Okay? And your kinetics has more mathematical expressions, while your kinematics has basically lesser kinematical or mathematical expressions or mathematical solutions. Particle and a body. So we need to differentiate between these two whenever we talk about moving particles or moving body. You say rigid body, this is a body that is defined in which the relative positions of any two particles do not change under the action of forces. No body is perfectly rigid. A body, when subjected to external forces, it must undergo some form of deformation, however small it may be. On the other hand, a particle is a body of infinitely small volume that is negligible dimensions but having mass concentrated at a point. That is called a particle. In your own words, can you differentiate between these two things? Mr. Agkayab, turn on your cameras, please. Whenever I call you, you turn on your camera. Okay, can you differentiate the rigid body and particle in your own words? Differentiate the body and a particle. Sabi ko lang ah. What is the difference between a body and a particle? Can someone help Mr. Agkayab? Alexandra Duyag. Differentiate a body and a particle. Basic lang yan sa physics. Diniscuss ko yan sa physics. Sino yung mga students ko ng physics dito? Basically, similar ang topics ng mechanics at saka physics. Sa Alexandra. Differentiate a body and a particle. Mr. Kayabyab, naka-overlap pa ba yung Discord sa presentation? Mr. Kayabyab? Where are you? Hanggang ngayon? Okay, let me check. Yan nga eh. Overlap pa rin. Okay, let me try to use yung PDF version ko. How about that one? Okay na ba? Ay, hindi pa pala naka-share screen. Sorry. Sorry naman. Yan. Okay na ba? Mr. Agkayab? Ay, sino yung nagsabi nun? Okay na. Hindi siya nabi agad kanina. Okay? Anyway, let's continue. Anyone who can differentiate between a particle and the body? No one? Not anyone from the class? Tigil na lang natin to, Garod. May estudyante ako dito dati. Yan. Abubo. Miss Abubo, can you differentiate a particle and a body? Okay? So at some point that is correct because that is the next part of the slide. The criterion of size is only relative. But generally, when you are talking of a body, kapag di pa natin diniscuss yung relativity ng criterion of size, when you say a body, that is composed of many particles. Yung particle naman, that is very small. Okay, is that clear? When you say a body, that is composed of many particles. While yung particle naman is so small, sabi nga dito, a body that has an infinitely small volume. So, small siya, small yung volume niya, so it is a particle. And yung body natin is composed of many particles. And when you say deformation, that is a difference, or when you say deformation, that would be the relative position, the change in the relative position between two particles. Diba, yung body natin is composed of many particles. And if you say deformation, ibig sabihin, that particle or that body, yung particles niya is being undergoing deformation kapag merong displacement or difference between the position of the particle. Yun yung tinatawag natin na deformation. The difference in the relative position of your particles. For example, let me have this drawing. Can you see the screen? Okay. So for example, you have a body, right? Yung body na yan is composed of many particles. When you say deformation, if that is the original position of the particles in a body, let's copy this. When we say deformation, halimbawa, yan. This is an example of deformation. Since the body is composed of many particles, kapag na-deform siya, if ever, for example, nilagyan mo siya ng force dito and it went under deformation, ibig sabihin, yung particles na to, from its original position being here, at this position, yan yung original position ng particles, nag-iba siya. Nagkaroon siya ng displacement from its original position. For example, ang original position ng particles, considering this one, this particle is this position. This one naman is this position. So there is displacement between the particles. When you say that if there is displacement between the particles, then the rigid body underwent deformation. Because as we have discussed, there is no perfectly rigid body. Sabi dito sa may PowerPoint natin, no body is perfectly rigid. Because when you think about a rigid body, anong may isip nyo? Halimbawa, yung mga bato, rocks, yung steel. If you will take parang sa unang glance mo or unang tingin mo is hindi siya nagde-deform. But then, there is still deformation. There is no perfectly rigid body. However small the deformation is, that is still deformation. Okay? Is that clear? Yung particle and body? Class. Okay. Okay, thank you. Now let's move to the criteria, this statement. The criterion of size is only relative. If you take a look at this picture, you can see the planets, right? The criterion of size is relative means that the size of an object can be considered as a body or a particle depending on the distance of the observer with the object being observed. Katulad nung sinabi ko dun sa video presentation of this module, if you are a person and you are observing the earth and you are on the surface of the earth, you may say that the earth is something that has an appreciable size, meaning you can consider this object as, or the earth as a body. Appreciable yung size niya. But then, if you are an astronaut and you are observing the solar system at a distance, then you may see the earth as only a point or a particle in that case. Ibig sabihin, yung size natin is relative only. When you say relative, relating to. The criterion of size is relative on the distance of the observer with the object that is being observed. So that is part 1 of your module. Now let's move to part 2, the motion of a particle. Let me open this. Okay, so for the motion of a particle, we will define motion and the types of motion and identify the different types of rectilinear motion. So motion is a phenomenon in which an object changes its position over time. If there is no change in position, then there is no motion over time. Motion is also relative, just like the criterion of size. Why do we say that motion is relative? We say that motion is relative because we are always considering motion with respect to a frame of reference. On this first figure, yung bowling ball that is moving along the plane surface, yung plane floor, why do we say, what is our frame of reference in this first picture? Mr. Agoot. Mr. Agoot. Mr. Agoot. Mr. Agoot. Parang hindi nakikita. For example, ipa-imagine ko na lang sa'yo. Kung di mo makita, mag-imagine ka na lang. A ball is rolling. Kunwari, bowling ball. It is rolling on the floor. When we say motion is relative, what is the frame of reference dun sa motion ng ball? Ano ang frame of reference natin dun para masabi natin that the ball is moving or is in motion? Yung ground, tama. Okay? So, kapag yung sa may ball na yon, it is rolling on the plane surface or on the ground, on the floor, yung frame of reference natin is, of course, the ground. Because it's changing its position with respect to that frame of reference. Thank you, Mr. Agoot. How about the second picture? Miss Almogela. Correct me if I'm wrong sa pronunciation ng mga names nyo. Ira. Sa second picture, what is ano ang frame of reference natin dyan? Miss Almogela. Yes, ano yung frame of reference natin? Yung water. Okay? That is partly correct. The boat is moving with respect to the motion of water, right? If for example, if you are moving, yung boat natin is moving going away from us, and the water is also moving in the same direction, then it will be easier for the boat to move. If naman yung boat is moving against the direction of the flow of water, then it is harder for the boat to move. So, depende siya dun sa may direction ng flow of water. Pero, may foreigner ba tayo dito na kasama? Do you have any foreigners here? None? Kasi kapag wala, magtataglish ako. Okay? Kung wala, okay lang. Yes? Sino yun? What? See? Si Manzi. Okay, sorry. I'm very sorry, Mr. Manzi. So, for this one, for the boat, the frame of reference is basically 2. It is moving with respect to the direction of the flow of water, but it is also moving with respect to the banks of the river. When you say bank, that is the sides of the river. Right? So, we have 2 frames of reference. The motion of your river, the flowing river, and also your bank. So, if for example, mahirap siyang it's hard to actually have this illustrated using pictures. But then let us try. So we have here the river. Ito yung sides of the river, or what we call the banks. Let me use another color. If this is the bank of the river, when you say bank of the river, that is the side of the river. Yeah. We have 2 rivers. For example, differentiate lang natin. If for example, the first river here, river number 1 and river number 2, is flowing in the direction as represented by the arrow, and the other river, or the water in the second river, is flowing in the direction represented by this arrow. So if you have a boat and you want to move going along with the direction of the river, then it will be easier for you, right? You will move with respect to these banks. For example, this is your original position, and then after some time, you were already here. This is your final position. So that is, you moved with respect to the frame of reference, that is this, what do you call this? The banks of the river. But what if your speed and the speed of the water is the same? For example, you are rowing your boat at a speed of 5 feet per second. And the flow of the water is also 5 feet per second. So, ang magiging relative motion mo niyan or relative speed mo would be 10 feet per second. Kapag naman, if you have this boat, for example, and then you are moving against the flow of the water, then that is a different story. So we base it on different frames of reference. But what if your boat is, you are not rowing the boat, you are just waiting for or depending on the flow of the river to take you. So yung river lang ang is the one that is causing your motion. If you will not take into consideration the banks of the river, then you can say that you have no motion if your frame of reference is only the river. Like, can you see the screen? Mr. Taglian said that it's only loading. Okay na? Maybe it's on the connection. Okay? If you are not going to row your boat and you are going to allow the flow of the water to be the one to cause your motion, or the water will only be the one to cause your motion, then if your frame of reference is only the river, then you are not moving. Right? If that is your only frame of reference, you are not moving. But if you consider the banks of the river, you are still moving. You will move from this initial position. From this initial position, you will move here with respect to the frame of reference being the bank of the river. Kaya natin sinasabi na motion is relative because that is always depending on the flow or depending in the change in position of your object with respect to your frame of reference. Generally, when we say frame of reference, we can say that it can be a three-dimensional frame of reference. We can say that can be a two-dimensional frame of reference, or even a one-dimension frame of reference. When we consider one-dimension frame of reference, parang it's as if that you are moving on the number line. Parang isang straight line lang. Pag plane motion naman, and then you are considering two axes. If that is a three-dimensional frame of reference, then that would have three coordinate systems. Can you still follow? Clear ba sa inyo? Okay, I guess, yeah. If you can't understand, don't hesitate. Huwag kayong mahiyang mag-ask ng question. Walang nakakahiya dun. Okay, let's go back to our PowerPoint presentation. Here. Nasaan na yun? Okay. So that is the relativity of motion. motion is relative. So we have our types of motion. The first one is rectilinear motion. When we require only one coordinate axis along with time to describe the motion of a particle, it is said to be in linear motion or rectilinear motion. Some examples are a parade of soldiers, a train moving a straight line, and many more. Okay, rectilinear motion. When we say rectilinear motion, is that necessarily that it should be in the horizontal or vertical motion only? Miss Ambrosio, when we say rectilinear motion, are we only considering the horizontal and vertical axis? Or we can consider a diagonal axis? Miss Ambrosio. Miss Ambrosio. Are you still there? If you did not understand the question, you can tell me. Miss Ambrosio, a response would be appreciated. Wala ba akong kausap? Ambrosio. Yes. In the announcement, you tell him, nandun sa announcement natin, is the link for the server. And after he joined the server, you can look for the voice channels, nandun yung lounge. Di ba gano'n naman yung ginawa nyo? Sige, sige. Okay. Miss Ambrosio, are you still there? Clear naman yung pagsasalita mo, so paano naging paputol-putol? Okay, ngayon pwede na. When we say rectilinear motion, are we only considering vertical and horizontal axis? Yes or no? vertical and horizontal lang. Pwedeng slant. Ano pa talaga? Yung final answer na. No. Okay. That is correct. When you say rectilinear motion, hindi lang siya, that is not only the vertical or horizontal axis. Because we can consider a diagonal axis as long as we are transferring our axis on that specific axis. For example, if you are going to move on a slide, baba tayo ng konti sa slides natin. Ay, wala pa dito. Wala pala dito. If you are, for example, mag-drawing tayo ng slide. Or mag-imagine na lang tayo because we are training to be an engineer. We should be very good in imagining things. You should develop your imagination. So, if for example, you are going to slide on a diagonal slide, that can be considered as rectilinear motion as long as you are considering your axis to be parallel in the plane of the slide. Nakuha ba, Miss Ambrosio? Okay. So, as long as pwede natin we can transfer the axis that we are considering. And in that case, we can call it rectilinear motion still. Okay, thank you, Miss Ambrosio. Okay, curvilinear motion is the next type of your motion. In this case, an object has a curved path of motion. And the last one would be rotational motion. Types of motion based on the distances being covered with respect to their time intervals is uniform motion and non-uniform motion. When we say uniform motion, an object is traveling equal distances at equal time intervals. For example, ibig sabihin, for example, if you are going to travel 1 second, every 1 second you are traveling 1 meter, ibig sabihin that is an example of a uniform motion. Equal distances at equal time intervals. Non-uniform motion if you are traveling unequal distances considering equal time intervals. We will go back to these types of motion later on in the discussion. In the meantime, let us move to the next part of your module 1, and that would be displacement, velocity, and acceleration. Where is it? Okay. Okay, this is unit 3 of your dynamics. Niulit ko lang para intindihan nyo ng gusto. Okay, distance and linear displacement. Distance is a scalar quantity which is only considering the total length of the path covered by a particle. When you say this linear displacement, that is describing how far out of place did the particle went from its original to its final position. So if you are going to consider this motion here, if there is an object from point A that traversed this arc and its final position would be point B, the distance would be, what is the distance, Miss Angway? What is the distance that was traveled by the particle? Is that the arc or this straight line? Miss Angway? Okay? So if the particle will move from point A to point B, traversing this arc here, what is the distance? Yung length ba ng arc or the length of this straight line? Remember, dito siya dumaan sa may arc na ito. So what would be the distance? The length of the arc. Okay? Okay, that is correct. Because the distance that was traveled or the path, the length of the distance of the path is yung arc. In Tagalog, dito siya dumaan. Meaning, that is its distance. And its displacement would be, Miss Angway, ng ano? A to B. Siya, dalawang A to B dyan. Line or arc? Yung line. Okay? Thank you, Miss Angway. Okay. What if naman, thank you. What if the particle traveled from point A, traversing this arc, going to point B, and going back to point A, traversing the same path? Pumunta siya from A, going to B, and then it traveled back to A. Wala ba akong highlighter something? Wala kasing highlighter sa ano eh. Can you see the pointer of my mouse? No. Hindi nyo nakikita? I'm sorry about that because let me find kung meron pang highlighter something here. Wait lang ha, let me close this screen first. Okay. Okay na? Okay. So what if you have here from point A, it will travel to point B traversing this arc, and then it will go back to point A traversing the same path. What would be the distance that was covered by the particle? Mr. Kayabyab. Ano ang distance that was traveled by the particle? From what I remember, diniscuss ko yun dun sa may video presentation yan. Are you still there, Mr. Kayabyab? Yes. What is the distance traveled? Times 2 ng AB plus BA. Ano yun? Is that what? When you say AB tsaka BA, is that considering line or arc? Is that arc length or line length? Line length, sure? Arc length. Because that is the path that was covered. And what is the displacement, Mr. Kayabyab? Remember that the displacement is the, okay? What is the displacement? Yung line. Final answer? Huwag kayong mahihiyang magsabi ng sagot nyo. Okay. Final answer, Mr. Kayabyab. Yung line, length ng line, yung displacement niya. Okay. Actually, okay, thank you, Mr. Kayabyab. The displacement in that case, di ba, its original position would be from A, it went to B, and then went back to A. Yung displacement natin is defined as the difference between the initial and the final position. So if the initial and final position is the same, ibig sabihin the displacement is equal to 0. There is no displacement in that case. Tama ba? May salita naman kayo. Tama ba? Okay. So, that is the difference between displacement and distance. I hope that is already clear with you guys. Let me just take my charger. Lobat na yung laptop ko.
When was that job? Is that June? We started our first plan on first or second? I thought it's right.
Okay, let's continue. I hope that is clear. Okay, we have your speed and linear velocity. Linear velocity is a vector at any moment that the particle is moving along the path AB is the same time rate. Is the same time rate of its linear displacement, or simply the change in position delta s with respect to time delta t. Okay, when we say naman speed and linear velocity, speed is the distance covered with respect to time. By the way, your distance is an example of a scalar quantity because it is not considering any direction. But when you say displacement, that is an example of a vector quantity because it considers displacement, rather direction all the time. Okay? So, yung velocity natin is the change in position with respect to time, and it is considering the direction or the linear, yung velocity natin is the change in the displacement, while your speed is the change in distance with respect to time, or the distance covered with respect to time. When you say speed or instantaneous velocity, that is considering a very short time interval, and it's given by the ratio delta S over delta T. Instantaneous velocity, ibig sabihin, we are considering a very short interval of time because velocity is the delta S over delta T. Dito nga sa may drawing natin from our figure, we have your delta S, that is the displacement, and delta T is the time that it took for the particle to travel from its initial position to its final position. And that is your instantaneous velocity. The magnitude of the particle's velocity is called your speed. So basically, they are very similar, yung speed and velocity, but then it's just that speed is not considering direction, while velocity is always considering the direction of the particle's motion. Okay, continuing, we have our linear acceleration. When we say linear acceleration, that is the change in the velocity with respect to time. Kaya ang unit ng ating, di ba, ang unit ng ating displacement and speed, or rather distance and displacement, is unit of length. Yung displacement nga lang is you will add some direction. For example, yung displacement would be 5 meters northeast. That is an example of a unit of displacement. We are considering always the direction of it. Yung speed, meters per second, example ng unit niya. Yung velocity naman, meters per second, going to the right, going to the left, or whatever the direction is. Your linear acceleration is always considering your direction. Pag sinabing linear acceleration, laging merong direction. Instantaneous acceleration, similar with your instantaneous velocity, that is the ratio of delta V, or the change in velocity with respect to the change in time. But then, your change in time here is approaching zero. Kaya nga limit of delta V over delta T is as delta T approaches zero, because we are only considering a very small amount of time, or very short time interval. I hope you understand that mathematical expression, because that is part of your calculus 1. That it should be easy for you. When we say linear acceleration, we have two cases. In rectilinear motion, delta V may be caused by a change in magnitude only. Varying speed and not changing direction. So, pag sinabi nating linear acceleration, that is the change in velocity, right? But for rectilinear motion, the change in velocity, since velocity is composed of speed and direction, yung magnitude ng velocity is speed, and the magnitude and the direction is of course the direction. Kasi nga it's a vector quantity, it's composed of magnitude and direction. The delta V, or the change in velocity for rectilinear motion, can only be caused by varying speed. When you say varying, that is changing, and constant yung direction niya. Because if you change in direction, sa rectilinear motion, since you are only considering one line of action or one axis, then when you say delta V, or change in velocity, that is only caused by the change in the speed. Is that clear? Can you understand yung sinabi ko? Did you understand it? Rectilinear motion, delta V may be caused by a change in magnitude only. I hope that's clear. Sino hindi kung ano? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Ishaya. In curvilinear motion, however, delta V, or the change in velocity, may be caused by a change in direction only. Meaning, there is constant speed, but then you are changing the direction sa curvilinear motion. Because that is a curved path. Your delta V can be a change in direction only or a change in both magnitude and direction. Pwedeng nagbabago yung direction niya lang, and pwede rin siya na nagbabago yung speed and your direction. Okay? For curvilinear motion, the direction is always varying. Hindi pwedeng hindi mag-vary ang direction ng curvilinear motion. We will discuss this later. Paki-remind sa akin to. Kung bakit, we need to know the reason behind why in curvilinear motion, the direction should always be changing. And that has something to do with the forces that is acting on the particle which causes the curvilinear motion. It has something to do with the orientation of the force that is causing curvilinear motion. That is why the direction should always be varying for curvilinear motion. Okay, let's have another part. Module 2 na pala tayo. Friction and Newton's law of motion. Okay pa ba kayo? Okay, so this is module 2, and this is your kinetics. Remember, a while ago, we have defined what is kinetics as a branch of your dynamics of rigid bodies. Can you again define what is kinetics? I'll call someone. Sinong lucky dito? Talikan. Can you define kinetics? In Tagalog. Define mo yung kinetics in Tagalog. Yes. Mas challenging ba yung Tagalog? Kasi narinig kitang nag-type eh. Okay. What is kinetics? Or Taglish. Pwedeng Taglish. Luloko mo ko eh. Tigilan mo na yan. Okay, when you say kinetics, that is when you say kinetics, we are concerned with the forces that is causing motion. Yung mga force na nagpapagalaw sa mga bagay. The forces that is causing motion. And when you have your kinetics, basically we have we are only using one formula. We have only one mathematical expression that we will use, and that is taken from the second Newton's law of motion. So let's first discuss this friction and Newton's law of motion. Again, a recall from your physics. A force is a push or pull exerted on a particle. The only part of a force system that will cause the motion of a body is the unbalanced force, or what we call our resultant. If, for example, you are going to push one object to the right and another person will push it to the left, and you are exerting the same force, same magnitude of force, but then it is only acting on the opposite direction, then there is no unbalanced force. You should know this because this is part of your basic concepts in your physics. And I have also uploaded some videos and lectures on the discussion of your forces recall. Andito yan sa modules nyo. Let me share a different screen. Ito the part of your modules. Where is that thing? Here. This is your modules. We have here under your module 2, kinetics. I have uploaded there a module for the review of forces. It tackles about the introduction of forces, vector representation of force, parallelogram law, triangle law, force polygons, component method, and component method. Because we will need this. Discord ba? Oh, sorry. Where is that? There. Okay na? Okay. So under module 2, kinetics, I placed there a review of your forces. So na-discuss ko dyan yung introduction to forces, vector representation of a force, resultants and its types, parallelogram law, triangle law, component method. So that is your review of forces. Because you will need that in the computations later on in your kinetics. Although we are only going to use one fundamental equations for kinetics, and that is taken from Newton's second law of motion, kailangan pa rin natin yung basics of finding the resultants, representing resultant system for systems using vectors. Kailangan pa rin natin siya. And you should have a recall of that topics. That is very important. Because when we say forces are the one that is causing motion of the object, and since this is kinetics, we are concerned with the forces that will cause an object's motion. We are not only considering one force. When we say force, we are normally talking about a force system. And for a force system, we need to find its equivalent system in the most simple way. For example, you have a force system of concurrent forces. Yung concurrent forces na yon, it is very hard for us to use or to analyze kinetics using many forces. That's why we are simplifying it into a single force, or what we call the resultant of that specific force system. That is why we need to learn or to inculcate that in our solution, or to integrate that in our solution always. dapat hindi nyo kalimutan ang resultant forces because you will even need that in your statics, in your other major subjects. So that is the importance of the forces. By the way, what is a concurrent system? Concurrent force system. Hakizimana John. When you say concurrent force system, what is that? John, are you there? Oh, you're a foreigner. Sorry. What is a concurrent force system? Yes. That was discussed in your physics. Come again? Compressing what? Can you use your own words? Compression of Can you expound? Concurrent force systems. How about Ishaya? Okay. When you say concurrent force system, it is a force system wherein all of those forces meet at a common point. So let us have an example of it. This is basic concept. Okay, so when you say concurrent force system, can you see the screen? Okay. When you say concurrent force system, you have a common point and all of the forces are acting on it. They will meet at a common point. They are meeting at a common point. That is an example of concurrent force system. How about collinear force system? Miss Padilla. Miss Padilla? When you say collinear force system, how do you define that? Comes from the same point. the same point. Kulang siya. Hindi na alam mo. Okay. So, since nakakagulat na some of you hindi niyo pa master masyado yan, I advise you to review on the discussions that I have made. Okay? Next meeting, I'll ask a lot of questions again regarding those topics. So make sure that whenever I give modules and video lectures, panoorin nyo naman. And if you have questions, as I have told you on our first meeting, that you can use the discussion tab. Do not hesitate to post questions there. Okay? Huwag kayong mahihiyang magtanong kasi kaya nga tayo, that's why we are here in the university to learn. You maximize the tuition fees that you are giving for your learning. Because you need this topic, you need those, ideas and concepts later on in your major subjects or major courses. How can you proceed with the higher subjects if you do not know the basics of your majors? That would be very hard. If you can do it now, you do it now. Okay? Let's continue. Hindi ako galit I'm just stating some facts. I'm not angry. Okay. Let's have forces. So friction force, when one object slides over the surface of another, its motion is opposed by a retarding force that resists motion, and it is called friction. Yung friction, whenever two surfaces are sliding on each other, then there will be resistance, and that resistance is what you call your friction, and it is represented by the frictional force. Frictional force is a tangential force on the surface that opposes the sliding of an object across an adjacent surface. Frictional force or friction force is determined using this formula here. F is equal to N times mu, where your F is the frictional force, your N is the normal force, which is the force perpendicular to the surface of contact. Take note of the word perpendicular. The normal force should be perpendicular to the surface of contact. And mu is the coefficient of friction. Okay? One question. We share another screen. Hey, for example, we have here a plane. Pangit ng plane ko. Try natin. Tabingi. That is the best plane that I can do. Hirap pag-drawing dito sa... let me use another color na now. Okay. From your screen, you can see here a rectangular block that is placed on a horizontal surface, and of course that block has its mass, and naturally it will have its own weight. Your weight, of course, is depending on the atmosphere or the gravitational force that is acting on the mass of the object. If that is on the earth, meaning the gravitational force or the gravitational acceleration would be 9.81 meters per second squared, or 32.2 feet per second squared. And your weight can be taken by multiplying the mass of an object by the gravitational force of that specific area. If your object is in the moon, then that will have a different gravitational force. I think about 1.67 meters per second squared, if I'm not mistaken. Okay? Anyway, we have here your weight. And when we say friction, that is depending on the normal force. So, the question now is, what is the normal force equivalent in this image? Who is the lucky one? Miss Tolentino. Miss Tolentino. What is the normal force in this force system? Miss Tolentino. Miss Tolentino. Wala bang response man lang? Nagdilip ata yung iba pag hindi alam yung sagot, ah. You can tell me right away if you don't know, so that we will not waste our time. Miss Tolentino. Naka-on lang ata yung... Naka-join ka lang ata pero hindi ka nagpa-participate. Pistola. Pistola Freyjon. Mr. Pistola. What is the normal force? Ano yung normal force natin dito sa picture? From your physics. But may value. What's funny? Hindi nyo alam? Can anyone tell me what is the normal force in this figure? What? Mr. Upward. And what is that value? What would be that value, Mr. Ishaya? No, you do not consider it first. Considering only the figure. You have your weight. What is the normal force? Any idea? Can you see the screen? I'm sharing a screen right now. it has an image there. We have a rectangular block with a weight that is placed on top of this horizontal surface. Using that system, what is the normal force? Ha? Sino yun? Pink? Anong? Yes? Sino yun? Yung nagsalita last? The value of? The normal force. Yes. Tama si Miss Dagitan. The value of the normal force is equal to the value of the weight in this case. Okay, thank you Miss Dagitan. Nakikita ba? Sino yung nagsabi kanina na may problem sa screen? Do you still have a problem with the screen? Paki-introduce ang sarili mo, hindi kita mahanap. Who's that? Kaya Biab? Hindi mo makita? Nakita naman ang classmates mo. You try to, if you are using are you using your cell phone? You're using your cell phone. If you're using your cell phone, you try to stop watching the stream and then you click on it again. Parang refresh lang. If hindi pa rin siya effective, you can restart Discord. Yan, simple troubleshooting yan. Okay na, Mr. Kebiag? Okay. So, follow-up question na lang. Based dun sa sagot ni Ms. Dagitan that the normal force for this system is equal to the weight of the object. Is that always the case, Mr. Dizon? Is the normal force always equal to the weight of the object? Hindi. Bakit? Yes. Okay, that is correct. So, according to Mr. Dizon, which is actually correct, let us copy this portion here. Let us demonstrate another. Let me copy this and paste it here. Let's have another, what do you call this, scenario to demonstrate that the normal force is not always equal to the weight of an object. Because what if you will have a force here, or a string for example, that will pull the object at an inclined position. Your normal force is still perpendicular. Normal force. You have the normal force is still perpendicular to the surface of contact. Perpendicular yan lagi because it is always defined as a perpendicular force. But then, its value is not equal to the weight already. If this is force, it is inclined at an angle of theta, for example, with respect to the horizontal. When you say with respect to the horizontal, that is measured from the horizontal. When you say the angle is with respect to the vertical, then that angle is measured from the vertical. So you should always be careful with those kinds of statements. So going back, the normal force is not equal to the weight of the block in this case because there is a force, inclined force, that is helping or altering the normal force that would be acting on this surface. So as a general rule, to find the normal force, what you will do is that if you are going to consider this axis as x, and dito rin, axis natin to na x, horizontal axis, x, and another axis here, the y-axis. Forgive my not straight drawings, it's so hard to draw even using a pen tablet. We have a vertical axis here. Let's call this axis y. So we have important notes to remember here. The first one is the normal force is always perpendicular to the surface of contact. And to obtain the value or the magnitude of the normal force, we will use the concept of finding the resultant, or rather the vertical axis or this axis collinear with the normal force should always be in state of equilibrium sa mga case na ganito. When you say state of equilibrium, the summation of forces on the vertical axis, take note that the vertical axis should always be perpendicular with the surface of contact. Vertical axis is equal to 0. Okay? I am always telling you that you should always take note of the surface of contact, because what if your surface of contact is an inclined surface? For example, this one, you have a block, rectangular block, the same rectangular block, but this time the surface is inclined. Your normal force now will not be vertical, but it will be, sana yun? It will not be vertical, but it will be perpendicular with the surface of contact. This is not perpendicular. Ang hirap talaga mag-drawing. Anyway, there. You have your normal force. That is always perpendicular to the surface of contact. In this case, this is your surface of contact. In Tagalog, surface of contact is the surface, yung lugar kung saan sila nagdikit. Okay, that is the surface of contact. The normal force is always perpendicular to the surface of contact. Now going back, to find the normal force, we will use the equilibrium equation stated here. Summation of forces in the y-axis. For this scenario naman, yung y-axis natin, we can transfer it here. We can say that this is our y-axis, and this will be your x-axis. You can always transfer your axis. So for summation of forces along the y-axis is equal to 0 for this case, we should indicate the direction that we considered. For forces that is going up, we will consider a positive sign, and forces that is going down, we will consider them to be having a negative sign. You should always indicate this statement here in your solutions. So for the summation of forces, y equal to 0, first force, the normal force that is going up. So since we are considering forces going up to be positive, the sign of the normal force should be positive. We have another force, natabunan na siya, let's redraw it. The weight of the object that is going down with respect to the y-axis, so that should be having a negative orientation or negative sign, minus w. But don't forget, you have your force here that will have its vertical component. To find the vertical component, you review the videos that I have uploaded. Pero in the meantime, this inclined force will have a horizontal component. This is F sub x, and the vertical component. Vertical component of this inclined force is F sub y, and that is going up. It is always following the direction of your incline or the resultant force. So we are concerned with the vertical component, so that is F sub y, and its sign should be positive because that is going up. This is equal to 0 for us to achieve a state of equilibrium. We have n minus w plus F sub y can be written in terms of f and theta. And using your physics, that can be written as the vertical component is opposite the angle, so we will use sine. F sub y is equal to f sine of theta equal to 0. We can now determine the value of the normal force, and that is equal to transposing w to the other side. This would be positive w. And then transposing f sine of theta to the other side, this will be negative f sine of theta. Okay? But that is just for this case. You should always solve the normal force using summation of forces on the vertical axis perpendicular to the surface of contact equal to 0. Okay? Let's go back to our presentation here. So we have basically 4 types of friction. First one would be the static friction, kinetic friction, rolling friction, and fluid friction. The static friction is for the case when the surface is just on the verge of sliding across the surface. So static friction is acting when the surface is not, or the object is not yet sliding. Kaya nga static, it is not moving. And the frictional force is less than or equal to mu of s. Your mu of s is the coefficient of static friction, and n is of course the normal force. Bakit siya less than or equal to? Because your frictional force can be taken from this formula, and that should be the limit. Upper or lower, wait lang, less than equal So this is the upper limit of your static friction. It can be that the static friction is less than this value. So this is the upper limit of your static friction. Once the force, remember that friction is the one that is retarding the motion of the object, and it is always acting on the opposite direction with respect to the resultant force that will cause the object to move. And since that is acting opposite the resultant force that is trying to move the object, once you have the force equal to the resultant force that will try to move the object is less than the value of your static friction, then it will not be able to cause the object to slide. Can you get it? Okay? If the force that will try to move the object is less than the value of the static friction, then the force will not be able to move the object. Demonstrate natin siya using a drawing again for better understanding. Static friction. So if we have here a plane surface and there is a block, rectangular block again. Let's use another color. Okay, if for example this is the resultant force, resultant external force that is trying to move the object going to the right, and naturally you will have a frictional force because that is always acting whenever there is a collision or a surface contact. That is always acting on the opposite side of the force that is trying to move the object. So this will be the frictional force. So static muna tayo. So if F, or the resultant force that is trying to move the object, is equal to 50 kilonewtons, and the frictional static force is equal to 20 kilonewtons, we can say that F is greater than F sub S. In this case, since it is greater than the value of the static friction, then there will be sliding or there will be motion. But if in another case, for example, that F, the force that you will apply, is less than the frictional static force, for example, 20 kilonewtons, F sub S is greater than F. If the static frictional force is greater than the force that is being applied, then there will be no motion. Okay? If the static friction is greater than the force that is being applied, then there is no motion for the object. Okay? For it to have a motion, the force that you should apply should be greater than the value of the static friction. And for this case, since F is greater than Fs, there is motion, and naturally, the direction of motion should follow the direction of the applied force because it already overcame the value of your static friction. And remember, the static friction is the one that is determining whether there is motion or there is no motion for sliding objects. Okay, so don't forget that. The first step should always be to determine whether there is motion or there is no motion based on the static friction force. Now going back to your PowerPoint, we have your kinetic friction, similar formula, but then we just change the value of your coefficient of kinetic friction, still multiplied by the normal force to find the kinetic friction. Normally, the static friction should always be greater than the kinetic friction. Static friction is always, or the coefficient of static friction is always greater than the coefficient of kinetic friction. It is always harder to start motion than to continue with motion. And that is very evident if you will observe the values of your coefficients of kinetic and static friction. If in the case that the coefficient of kinetic friction is greater than the value of the coefficient of static friction, then that given is wrong. Okay? Remember, the coefficient of kinetic friction is always lesser than the coefficient of static friction. And let us continue. So if the static friction is the one that we use to determine whether there is motion or there is no motion, the kinetic friction, on the other hand, is the one that we will use to look for the resultant force. Okay? This is the one that we will use in finding the acceleration of objects. From your second law of motion, F is equal to m times a. To find the value of F, and that is the resultant force, considering friction, of course, we will use kinetic friction. Later we will demonstrate that, and that is also discussed in the video that I have uploaded regarding your friction. Rolling friction is the resistance to motion caused chiefly by the deformation produced where a wheel or cylinder pushes against the surface on which it rolls. Fluid friction, this is part of your hydraulics. It is encountered by solid objects in passing through fluids, and the frictional force is set up within liquids and gases in motion. So fluid friction is an important part in the discussion of viscosity later on in your hydraulics. So continuing, we have your mass and inertia. What is the difference between the two? They are very similar, but then they are related, but they are different with each other. Inertia is the property of a particle to offer resistance to a change in motion. Although all particles have inertia, they do not offer the same amount or degree of resistance. So when we say inertia, that is the property or the ability of an object to resist motion. It is the one that is the property of a particle that is resisting motion. And we have your mass, the quantitative measure of a particle's inertia. I have told you that they are related with each other because the mass is the measure of a particle's inertia. So if you will see here in the picture beside it, you have your barbell. That is heavy. For example, a 5 kilogram barbell and a 10 kilogram barbell, or dumbbell rather, barbell tuloy. A 5 kilogram and a 10 kilogram barbell will have different inertia. They will offer the same, they will offer different amount of resistance to motion. So for example, you have, let me share another screen. Let's go back here. For example, you have two objects. This is 5 kilograms. And another object, another block, that is 10 kilograms. If, for example, you will apply force equal to 10 newtons, and the same force to be applied 10 newtons on the 10 kilogram block, it is easier to move the 5 kilogram block if you will use the same amount of force than it is easier to move the 5 kilogram block than it is to move the 10 kilogram block, because they are offering different amount of inertia. Your 10 kilogram block has more inertia as compared with the 5 kilogram block, and that is measured by the mass, because the mass is the measure of an object's inertia. So generally, the greater the mass of an object, the greater the inertia that will offer, and that inertia is the determining factor or the property which particles possess to resist motion. So it is always harder to cause heavier objects as compared to those that are smaller. Common sense naman yan. Okay? So that is inertia and mass. First law of motion, Newton's law of motion. The law of inertia. If no force acts on a particle, it will remain at rest or will continue with its motion on a straight line without changing its velocity. So in other words, an object will remain at rest if there is no external force that will act on it, or it will continue with its motion on a straight line. Remember, the term is straight line, lagging straight line. Because if an object is moving on a curved path or on a circular path, then there is no there is an external force that is acting on it. Hindi na siya on a state of rest. So it is at rest, and will remain at rest if there is no force that will act on it. And for example, if an object is moving on a straight line, then there will be constant there will be a constant velocity. There is no change in velocity. There will be no object that will cause, or there will be no external force that will act on the particle. For example, from our figure a while ago, for this one, consider natin ito. Consider muna natin ito, the scenario number 2. If there is no friction, for example, frictionless siya, we consider it to be a frictionless surface, meaning the frictional force is equal to 0. If you will push it, or if it is moving, let's remove this force. Kasi nga, there is no external force, right? If this is moving, this is the direction of motion, there is no external force that is acting on it, it will continue with its motion with the same velocity. There is no change in velocity if there is no external force that will act on it. That is why we are able to stand, or we are able to the reason why we are able to stand on the ground is because there is friction. If there is no friction that will act on the soles of our shoes, then we will continue to move. Okay? That is the law of inertia. That is very evident in the daily scenarios of our lives. Going back, that is the first law of inertia. The second law of Newton's, the second law for the Newton's law of motion for a particle is the law of acceleration. If a force will act on a particle, it will be accelerated. The direction of acceleration is the same with the direction of the force. Take note of those conditions. Its magnitude is directly proportional to the force and inversely proportional to the mass of the particle. So dun sa una, sa first law, there is no external force that is acting on the body. But for the second law, if a force, an external force, will act on a particle, it will be accelerated. Meaning there will be a change in the velocity of the particle. And that acceleration or the change in velocity of the particle is directly proportional to the force and inversely proportional to the mass of the particle. That's why we have here a formula. The acceleration is equal to force divided by mass, or in other form, that is equal to F is equal to m times A, where F is equal to the resultant force that is acting on the body along the axis of motion that you are considering. Third law of motion is the law of reaction and action. For every action exerted on a particle, there will always be an equal but oppositely directed action along the line of action. So basically, yung action and reaction is the one that is causing motion of objects. For example, you have two balls and you throw the ball and it will hit the other ball. Then the ball that you throw is the one that caused the action of the second ball, and its reaction would be also to move. Your reaction is always equal in magnitude but opposite in direction, but it is also moving or working along the same line of action. I have discussed the concept of the line of action in the characteristics of forces on your review of forces. So you make sure that you understood those concepts because you will need it as your basis in the analysis later on in the computation parts of our activities. Okay? Do you have questions? Do you have questions? None? Okay? So if you don't have questions, that would be all for this meeting. I have uploaded an activity regarding friction on the assignment tab of your Canvas. As your guide for the computation of friction or the friction analysis, you can use, I have uploaded here in the module 2 a video on how to solve those problems. And if you have questions regarding the lessons or you have questions regarding answering your activity, then you can use the discussion tab that is always available for you to be able to utilize. The submission of this activity number 3 would be on November 12th. And November 12th is also the date of your examination, your midterm examination for this course. Okay? We will meet again on the next meeting. I will still discuss. Okay? So you make sure that you go ahead. I-browse nyo na yung module 3 for you to have an idea on our next discussion. That's That's why it is uploaded in advance for you to be able to browse it in advance and have a basic idea on how the discussion will be done. Okay? If you don't have questions, wala na pa talang questions. If you don't have questions, that would be all for this meeting. I hope you do your activities well and you study well. If you have questions, utilize yung discussion tab, huwag kayong mahihiya. Okay? That would be all for this meeting. Thank you.